Hi, my name is Peter Greenlaw, and I'm the author of the best-selling book, Why Diets Are Failing Us. And I'm proud to say that many, many people that have read this book have absolutely transformed their lives and changed it in many ways. It sounds funny that the title, Why Diets Are Failing Us, you'd think that this is about weight loss. And although weight loss is a great throw-in, this book is really nothing about weight loss. I'm sure you're not going to be disappointed if you could lose as much weight in 4 days as on any diet or exercise program in 4 to 6 weeks. But it's truly the foundation, it's truly the roadway to living healthier longer. And this is probably the main reason you want to read my book in the first place. But let's deal with the part, why diets are failing us, okay? I like to talk about it really in 3 aspects. As I'm sitting here today in the studio, think of a stool with 3 legs. The first leg, and I'll explain this, is toxicity. The second leg is deficiency, and the third leg has to do with GMOs, genetically modified organisms. So I just want to kind of walk you through briefly what all of those mean and what are the implications. So let's first start with toxicity. We all know, I think we know, that we're living in an incredibly toxic world. The air, the water, the food, the carpets, the shampoos, everything we're touching is loaded with chemicals. So much so that we have about 100,000 chemicals in commercial use in North America today, and less than 560 have ever been tested for what they do to us as human beings. Now, that's a pretty significant gap between what we've tested and what we don't know. But what's the evidence? Well, there was an amazing study done on infants. Scary, shocking. And when they tested these newborn infants, they looked at their cord blood right after birth. And every baby they tested had an average of 287 toxic chemicals in their blood, including mercury, iodine, arsenic, and gasoline byproducts along with Teflon and Scotchgard. Now, if those new babies are that toxic, how toxic do you think we are? Well, in a number of public studies on adults, they found an average of between 500 and 800 toxic chemicals basically in every single adult they tested. So if you don't think you're toxic, what planet are you living on? Now, so we now know we're living in a toxic world. We know this stuff's in us. But what does that have to do with diets and why they don't work? Well, we know that no strategy of traditional dieting or even exercise will remove toxins from the human body. What we do know is this. Here's what the science says, that these toxins have now been given a name. They're actually called obesogens. And what they do is they enter the body and they're actually reprogramming us to gain weight. Why? Because, see, the human body doesn't know what to do with herbicides and pesticides. When they enter the body, the immune system actually goes out and tries to identify them. And when it can't, the T cells back off and the body literally takes these toxins and stuffs them in those fat cells called obesogens. That's why diets don't work. That's why you can't lose weight. That's why you may lose some weight, get to a point you can't lose any more. Because your body's holding on for dear life. The only last level of protection it has against these toxins by storing them in these fat cells. So even if you're not fat, there's a big study that says just because you're thin doesn't mean you're healthy. Again, what did they do? They took athletes and people in great shape and they did MRIs on them. And when they looked in their bodies around all of their internal organs, their kidneys, their liver, their pancreas, their brain, breast tissue, prostate, they saw this white halo of this toxic fat called the body's toxic burden. No, ladies and gentlemen, you are toxic. Now, so toxicity is a major contributing factor why it's now projected. There was a thing on this morning. They're now saying that by the year 2030, in just 18 years, 50% of America will be obese. We have 2/3 overweight today and about 30% obese. This is a national pandemic. I mean, we are going to collapse as a country. There isn't health care now. I believe there's sick care. We're going to run out of drugs. We're going to run out of everything if we don't do something drastically different to stop this. Despite all the diets out there, all the weight loss programs, all the philosophies, everything that people are trying. My question to you is, how is it working? It's not. Stop kidding yourselves. We are on the Titanic. Is there any good news? Yes. Yes, the boat's going to sink, but you don't have to. There's a lifeboat. There's a life jacket. There's a blanket if you choose. I can't force you to get in the lifeboat. So toxicity is not our friend. And it's getting worse and worse day by day, week by week, month by month, year after year. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. But what do we continue to do? We basically are smoking hope dope, thinking that diets will work. They don't. Now, what's the second part that's causing this, not just obesity epidemic, but this drastic rise in disease? Well, the human body is the most amazing doctor in the world. The human body is the most amazing engine in the world. The human body is capable of incredible things. But just like your car, think about it this way. Your car is designed to run on gasoline. We're putting diesel fuel in a car, and then we wonder why it doesn't run very long. Why? Because we continue to dump into our body processed foods. We are dealing with what? Nutritional deficiency. What does that mean? Every single plant, every single nutrient that we think has been on a downhill spiral. Let me give you a dramatic example. In 1976, an apple, nutritionally, today in 2012, you have to eat between 6 and 12 apples to equal the same nutrition of one apple in 1976. Can you eat a dozen apples? I can't. So we're eating and eating, and we're eating these, what I call calories. And that's what everybody does on a diet of some form or another. They're counting calories. But see, the human body can't count calories, doesn't give a hoot about calories, and now the scientists have finally recognized the only thing that matters to the human body are nutrition and nutrients that can be absorbed. Let me give you another point. It's not what you eat or drink, it's what you absorb. So you can ingest these massive amounts of calories with no nutrients, and then you also have a problem that you can't absorb them. Why? Because your body's so toxic, you actually suffer from a disease called auto-intoxication. No, that's not drinking too much alcohol. That's the amount of toxins in the body that prevent the body from absorbing these depleted nutrients that we know. It's across every food group. There was a big study just came out this week. Organic. Do I recommend organic? Yes. It has less herbicides and pesticides. But from a nutritional value, they've now said, which I've been talking about for the last decade, there's really no difference nutritionally. So even organic is nutritionally deficient for everything the body needs. In a major scientific study, they identified 51 nutrients that are essential. They're the bare essentials for the human body to function. If you're missing one, they say, your body will never be satisfied. You know the commercial? Nobody can eat just one. Really? No kidding. But we continue to fool ourselves. Things that we think are health food aren't. You know, we talk about reducing fat. Well, we need fat. We talk about reducing calories. No, it's not the calories. It's the nutrients. It's all upside down. Everything's crazy. Nutritional deficiency is doing what? It's making the body less able to deal, number one, with toxins, but number two, the natural disease-fighting properties of our immune system, of our T cells, of our organs, is being diminished because of nutritional deficiency. Plain and simple. You can pretend it's not happening. Look around. We're getting sicker and sicker at younger and younger ages. 1 in 3 babies born today, 1 in those 3 is going to get diabetes. This year, 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer. In 10 years, they're saying 1 in 3. Every disease you can name is out of control. Something is terribly wrong. 1 million people died of heart attacks this year, and yet before 1930, heart attacks were almost unheard of in North America. What did we introduce in 1930? Processed foods. See, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to do something different, or the consequences are probably not going to be what you want. The outcome is not going to turn out. Now, the last piece of this stool, the last piece that is also majorly contributing actually to the first two, are GMOs. What are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms, which we were told were going to increase yields. Wrong. They haven't increased yields at all. That they're going to cut down on crop loss. Wrong. As a matter of fact, now the GMOs, it's corn, it's soybeans, as a matter of fact, probably 80% of all the soybeans in North America are genetically modified. 80% of the corn, cotton, alfalfa. I mean, it's rampant. And if we don't do something to turn this around, within 10 years it's projected that basically 95% of everything you eat will be genetically modified unless we can stop it. Now, what happens with a genetically modified organism? Its genes have been altered to make it resistant to pesticides. Now, that sounds great in theory, but the problem is when you spray this stuff on a plant, yeah, it's resistant to the pesticides, but now the scientists are saying it's also resistant to nutrition. And it literally becomes a toxin in the human body. The FDA that said for years it was safe, just in 2012, they had to release under the Freedom of Information Act 44,000 pages of documents that said unequivocally they lied about GMOs. They're not safe. Their very scientists at the FDA said in these internal documents, do not allow the public to consume these things until we do long-term studies, which to this day have still not been done. And there's no labeling requirement in the supermarket today to tell you if it's a GMO. See, there are two types of GMOs. There's one that you spray on the crops, and then there are the insidious, what are called GMO plants. What does that mean? They've actually injected into the corn, into the soybeans, a gene that produces toxin in the corn. So like when the insect eats the corn, it blows their stomach up and the insect dies. Well, they said for a long time, no impact on human beings. Really? Well, in the last 10 years alone, we've seen an enormous increase in this country in gastrointestinal problems, in food allergies. And many of the scientists today say it is attributable to these GMOs that are actually perforating holes in our colon and causing something called leaky gut. Now, what's leaky gut? Leaky gut means that the food that you're ingesting, a strawberry, a banana, an apple, a piece of steak, is not getting fully processed, and it's actually being released into your bloodstream and is causing havoc in the human body. These things need to be processed down into their essential elements so they can effectively and safely be released in the body. Literally, they're causing us to become more toxic. Ladies and gentlemen, this is insanity. And you wonder why diets can't work? You need a different source of food. If not some of the time, maybe all of the time. And this nutritional cleansing technology is the difference. And all it does is supply the body with over 200 nutrients, minerals, vitamins that allow the body to do what? To deal with this chemical invasion, to deal with this invasive condition that's infiltrated all the cells in the human body. It's making us sick, it's making us age premature, and it is making us fat. There is real hope. In my book, you will learn the solutions and you will learn the secrets to not only what's in this stuff and why does it work, but what you can really do to make a significant difference in your life in just 4 days, not 4 weeks, not 4 months. So I encourage you to read my book or to contact the person who gave you my book to read so that they can really go over this program specifically for you and customize it. I'm Peter Greenlaw, and thank you so much for listening to me.